Time for Nightcap Conversations. Listen, romantically, 2022 was quite interesting for many of us. Some broke up with their partners, others found their significant others, while others got engaged or married. Listen, if you're one of those people, then congrats, booty. Congrats, is happy birthday. We're happy for you. But listen, if that wasn't the case, then I'm here for you. Tonight on Nightcap Conversations, we're delving into the world of relationships and looking at where some people went wrong. Then we'll all get a few tips from our relationship coach is joining us this evening, Dr. Bibi Petla, on how we can elevate our dating lives in this new year. Now, as I mentioned, she is in studio today. She is a wife, a mother of 3 children. She's a qualified medical doctor. She has her own practice since 2008. So basically, she's like Superwoman. She holds an MBA amongst other things, and she's an executive coach, a performance coach, and a relationship coach. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me in studio, Dr. Bibi Petla. How are you?
I'm very good. And how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You're so beautiful.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Thank you. I never heard of that.
No, you lied, really. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. How's the new year treating you?
So far so good. I'm present, so I'm not complaining. I'm just going with the flow.
And the money is coming in.
We're hoping it comes in. We want it.
We're manifesting. We're receiving the blessings.
Yeah.
All right, let's get straight to business. I want to know from you, how does a medical doctor turn into a relationship coach? How does that transition happen?
At some point, I was asking myself the same question, and then eventually, I put it together on 3 legs. So it has to be role modeling from my parents. Secondly, my own personal experience in struggling in a relationship and overcoming. Thirdly, I went for skills training. So as part of my MBA, I focused on mentoring and coaching. I didn't realize I only realized later that I actually love mentoring and coaching, but that only happened after my heartbreak.
Wow, I love the fact that you're speaking about your experience, because I literally want to know, where did we go wrong? Because I can tell you, like it's just not going well. So where do we go wrong with relationships?
I think with all relationships, like with anything, it's always the foundation. So it depends. If the foundation was solid, well planned for, and built with solid materials, then the relationship will stand. So most of the time, it's a point of you go into a relationship, you're not really sure what you're looking for, what the other one is looking for. Then you're like, no, but I'm feeling something, you're feeling something. Then you get in and realize that, no, man, this is not it for me. And remember, you're evolving, you're getting older, you are venturing into other things. So you, as time moves on, you also get to know yourself better. Sometimes you get more experience about life and you start redefining. And the biggest gap that is responsible for that is most of us didn't have positive role modeling in terms of relationships. And we have to acknowledge the impact of apartheid in most of our families, because remember, fathers were removed from the family structure. So everybody had to do what they had to do. But we know biology says there's role modeling from a father and a mother to make the child, to create a perspective. You only want what you've seen. If you've not seen it, you have to create it.
Wow. And I mean, when you mention things like apartheid, I can think from the trauma, or parents were traumatized. They probably didn't even know how to love each other right, and all of that carries down to the younger generations. Wow, that's actually eye-opening. I want to find out though, you mentioned foundation. So you said relationships often go wrong because the foundation is not right. Which foundation is important? The foundation where me and you meet and then we discuss what we want for our relationship, or the foundation within each one's self? To say, I need to be solid, you need to be solid for us to build something solid. Which one is the most, or which one is the important one?
Everything starts with an individual. So each individual has, ideally, each child is supposed to be molded in a certain way so that when they get into the real world, they're functional, they can cope. Because we know real life has challenges and traumas, but now the difference is if someone doesn't have the ability to bounce out of those traumas and challenges, and then they go into further relationships with other people when they themselves are broken, they don't understand themselves, they don't know what's going on with themselves, they don't understand why they can't go to sleep without drinking something to numb themselves, because that is a sign of deeper pain that we're not even aware of. So biology says that for the first 7 years, actually even the Bible says that the first 7 years is the time to develop a child. You're creating a perspective, coping skills. The child will be attracted to certain things because of what they've been exposed to. So that's where, even if genetics says you're supposed to have a certain condition, because genetics are real, emotional genetics, physical genetics, that's where if the environment is regulated or created in a certain way, it can even override genetics. So then it depends. What were you exposed to? Were you given the ideal? As much as now, in the new democracy, we say we don't need a man. We say we don't need men, and men are like, oh, we don't need women, so we don't need each other. But then we forget there's a biology that creates a child. And that biology is not determined by any of us. So now when we create things that are not in line with biology, yes, life will go on, but then the defect will show. Then we show up in relationships and we haven't been given the opportunity to be developed in a certain way. Then you go there as you are. Then because the universe is just, you only attract what you are. Whatever that it is, you will attract where you are.
I'm actually thinking now, there's a saying that goes, hurt people hurt people. So I'm guessing it's not far-fetched at all. Wow, Doc, you spoke about your heartbreak. What's been your journey from where you used to be to where you are now? How is your journey with relationships? How has that changed?
Yeah, so I think for me, it has been very interesting, because when I started dating, I even got engaged. I always choose well, tall, handsome. That's that's what like you just have that picture of what is a perfect guy, tall, handsome.
There's a tall, handsome guy in studio right behind me. Is this him?
I'm coming there.
We are getting there.
It's not him, but I'm coming there.
Oh, okay. Just had to make sure.
So you can just profile, or okay, what's her taste?
Yeah.
So tall, handsome, intelligent, and all of that. So I also knew that, and also because my role modeling was, my father was always there. I always saw my father. I went with my father everywhere. So as young as I was 14, 15, because I qualified actually when I was 14 years. I went to university. I was 14 years.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, you deserve horns.
Was it 14?
Wow.
Actually not 14. I was 15. I turned 16.
In your first year?
In my first year.
Wow.
So already when I was 14, 10, and 15, I was like, okay, I'm ready to get married. Obviously, it's the role modeling. I'm like, okay, it's my turn now. I want to have a husband, then we go around everywhere, then my kid, because that's what I've seen, right? So to a point that even to do medicine wasn't like I was sitting there like I want to do medicine and all of that. So my father said, you're doing medicine. I didn't even know what I wanted to study, but I wanted to get married. That's one thing I was sure about.
That's the one thing you knew. I don't care what I study. I don't care. I could be a teacher. Just get me into a church and marry me.
And then but I couldn't tell my dad. But for sure, he was like, okay, you're going to do medicine. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I did medicine. So I started dating while I was studying, got engaged. Things didn't go well, but I stayed in. And the one thing that was interesting for me, I never understood why people stayed in relationships if you're not happy or the standards are not what you want. But somehow I found myself stuck in a relationship like that, where I knew that I'm not happy anymore, this is not working for me. But then I had people, because I couldn't talk to my parents at the time, they didn't want me to have a relationship that you're there to study. If you find that you're having a relationship, you are gone. Okay, so I couldn't talk to my parents. I had to ask from friends. So friends were like, girl, you have to have a boyfriend, you have to do this. Okay, I'm like, okay, but I'm stressing, this is happening. Like, no, you hold on, it's a good catch. Hold on, something will change. Keep going. But then I was just losing myself more and more and more, and I lost a lot of self-esteem. It was a roller coaster. It was terrible. Good 7 years of misery, to be honest, until one day when things finally ended, and I had to recover, I think, for a good year, just affirming myself to say, no man, I have value, there's nothing wrong with me, I want what God wants for me. And at the time, I was a single mother from him, because we separated just as yeah, you can imagine. So long story, but then I had to reaffirm myself to say, no man, I don't think there's something wrong with me, and children are a blessing from God. I need to go back to my base where I know that what I want exists. I just have to be what I want because I'll attract what I want. And some of my friends were saying, no man, the profile of a man that you're looking for is going to be some old divorced guy.
I'm curious, Doc, when all of this is happening and you figure out now that I'm a single parent now, I've separated, you are at your lowest before you obviously built yourself up, did that not make you want to give up on love? Did you not want to give up on relationships?
No, I didn't. Possibly because my parents were always there. So I still go back to that base. And you can imagine at the time when I'm going through all of this, people are like, she's beautiful, she's a doctor, why can't she keep a man? So, and you have to just pull yourself together in that space and recollect yourself and go back to what you know. For hopefully what you know will build you and not break you. And my parents were always there, supportive. I always go back home, even that time, going back to a stable home, comfort, love, just stay home, cook, enjoy family time. I knew this is what I wanted and I knew I can get there. I wasn't asking for a lot. And the funny thing is, I said, I don't want a man who has a child.
Oh,
even though I had
you had a child.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you want to tell me more about that? What brought that thought about?
I decided on that because at the time when I was having these issues, there was baby mama drama that happened in my relationship. And I tried
also, your ex-husband had a child also. Your ex-fiance had a child also.
No, in our relationship, things happened and he had a baby with somebody else.
I see,
right?
I see.
So now, that lady eventually, she said she didn't know I was there. I'm like, okay, but now you know. Can you leave? But she wasn't able to leave because she also found what she wanted in him. And eventually they had a child together. I was obviously hurt, disappointed, but I was like, okay, let's do the right thing. The child is innocent, not responsible for anything that the adults do. Can we work together, but we need boundaries here. She needs to know that you are committed, and then we take care of the child. But that didn't happen. So after all that drama, I realized that, you know what, I do not want somebody with a child because I will not be able to control the mother of the child. If the mother of the child is not a just person, she will easily come and just use the baby unnecessarily so. And I'm saying that because I made a conscious decision when things didn't work out. I said, look, I will never use this child to get to you. A child is not a means to get to a man.
It's interesting that you mentioned this scenario because in nowadays, literally the youth are finding themselves in positions where they have to co-parent because they had a child and now they realized it's not going to work out and they want to move on. And usually the ladies get judged for that. Oh, you can't keep a man, or, how important do you think it is to set boundaries in a situation like that? And also, when do the boundaries need to happen? Do they happen when we first meet and you find out I have a child and my mother, the mother of my child is still involved? Is that when we set the boundaries, or when we decide to become serious?
Like with everything, it's important that, when you go into any relationship, be clear what you want from that relationship. Are you playing? Are you testing? Or you want commitment? So we are being encouraged to be flexible, but that flexibility is costing us our mental health. You can't be flexible in a relationship where you're going to share your soul, because being intimate with somebody is quite deep. This is not just some spiritual thing. It's quite a deep thing, because that's why somebody can lose themselves, because they've gone too deep with someone, because we are energy. So you can't just be with someone and nothing happened and So from the start, decide what do you want out of this relationship. If you know you're playing, of course, play. But then declare. Be honest. That you're playing. So most of the time, the mistake we make is we don't communicate clearly what we want. We are scared to be open and honest to say, this is what I want. Because obviously, if what you want doesn't serve the other person, you lose out. But the question is, then how do you know if somebody really wants? So it's always about you. If you've worked on yourself or not worked on yourself, you tend to attract somebody who is where you are. So you'll never be with somebody who is not at your level. The amazing thing is like this. So you can never cheat the universe. So you attract the energy that you have. You don't have to literally declare. But part of practically sifting to say, should I proceed? How far do I proceed? Is honest conversations. But before you have that honest conversation with someone, you should have had that with yourself. To know that this is me and this is what I see. So by the time you meet someone, most likely you attract something to where you are, but of course along the way you might meet someone or something that is similar to what you want, but it's not it. So part of how you sift is make clear what you want and don't give in too much until there's some level of clarity and commitment. You ask your, I mean, if you're playing, you don't have to ask a lot of questions.
That's true. Yeah, the less you know, the better.
Yeah, like let's just do this, get
Yeah.
it done. But if you know you're at a stage in your life where you want commitment, you want to settle down, you can't be casual about it because it's going to break you. Because you know you want something serious, but you're not telling the other person
100%.
because you are scared.
Yeah.
If you tell them you want commitment and you can see, because usually you are scared because you can see maybe they are not ready for that, but you want them.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, let's just do this thing. And then once I hook up with him, I will tell him. And the amazing thing for us as ladies, we think men want sex. Yes, men want sex. Yes, men love sex. But it depends where they are. A man who is not yet ready and in his element to produce and be purposeful, yes, he wants sex. But when a man comes of age and maturity and is at a stage where he says, I want something more serious, I want a woman who is going to bring the feminine side, who is intelligent but gentle, who is, you know, that beautiful dynamic of a feminine woman, because femininity is not weakness. Femininity is a woman who is in her essence, who is only for a man who is in his masculine.
Yo, bars. Wow, bars. Shoo. All right. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%.
I didn't finish my point.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was saying, for a man who is of maturity, sex is not the primary target. He wants somebody who's going to build with him. He's thinking legacy. He's thinking estate. He's thinking, can we do this together? Can this woman take care of whatever that I work hard for? Can whatever that we do together, can I trust her to multiply it, protect it, and distribute it justly, whether I'm there or not there? Can she back me up? Is she willing to? So when a man who is in that state is not, the primary thing is not sex, they think it's something else. So sex becomes a secondary thing. So the problem we make is we are being told that, you know, if you don't have sex with this guy, he's leaving. But they leave anyway.
That's true. If he's gonna leave, he's gonna leave you anyway. Sure, bars. Wow. I want to take you back. You mentioned earlier that how your perception of relationship was formed, were how you saw your parents. It was modeled for you. Back in the day, we know that, you know, our parents used to shell each other by the river. Mafigizolo even made a song about it. Nowadays, we slide in the DMs, you know.
Yeah.
I hit you with a nice punchline. Hey, heaven might be missing an angel because you're here. You know what I mean? I got game. We are definitely in the era of social media dating. Do you think that social media has affected the quality of relationships that we have?
Of course, because social media also means what you're exposed to. We're exposed to so much, so many options, and it also has the power that it gives you the platform to even portray what you're not. And somebody doesn't know until they live with the real person. So you'll have to get somebody off social media and meet them in the real court. I love that you're saying you have to meet them. Where do you think is the best place to meet a partner? Is it in the church? Is it in the club? Where do I find Makonda now? I think there is no perfect place per se. It's more about you being okay with yourself, you generating the right energy with yourself, because you don't have to plan much. That's the amazing thing. Because when you say, okay, let me go to church and find someone there are people who are also not as churchy as they look.
Hey!
They mold themselves churchy. And then you get there, you realize you're living with a monster.
Yeah!
A crookster.
Yeah!
You meet somebody in the club. You having your beers, it was fun, flexible, and then suddenly the relationship, you end up getting married for argument's sake. And then now that you're married, you're like, oh, we can't go to the club anymore. But that is not fair. You met at the club. So you have to continue.
You knew what you signed up for.
The club life.
Shoo. Wow. I like the fact that you mentioned you two connecting at a place, the person is not it. So for example, if I meet at a club, you're not a club person, or a church and you're a monster. What does it take to have a real connection wherever you meet?
You know, it sounds foggy. What I'm about to say, it might sound foggy, but it's not. It's actually real. So I'm going back to the point that you have to work on your own energy, because our energy has power. We call it different things. I'm just calling it energy. So when you work on yourself and you go back, I have a model that I call heaven on earth model. So heaven on earth model is got 3 layers. At the bottom is rightful self-identity, then there's purpose, then there's passion. So now at the bottom, the rightful self-identity has to do with you going back to the core of who created you. So whether you believe in God or not, somebody created you, and it's not you and it's not your parents, because your own parents need God. They need something because they also have weaknesses. They have pain, they have dreams, they have passion. So there is a God, or whatever you want to call it. So it's about going back to that creator and saying, why am I here? Why do you create a human being? And it answers the question of purpose, because we usually think purpose is something that you explore. You need a coach to help you find your purpose. But purpose is not something that we create or we discover or we train. We are born for a purpose. So it's like when somebody creates something, there's a reason you created that thing. So you have to ask the originator to say, why did you create this? Because they already know why they created. So the creator gives it its purpose. So when you know what your creator says about you being alive in this world, it answers a lot of things, and you are easily aligned to what you're supposed to be doing. Because otherwise you have to wait for people to tell you who you are, why you're here. Then it's so frustrating. You've gone through a difficult childhood or a frustrating childhood, then that becomes your base. But sometimes you might need to overcome the challenges that you experience in your childhood and redefine how you're going to experience the world. Because if you don't, when you grow up, you just play out what was recorded in the first 7 years of your life. But when you're not aware, and when you don't go back to the creator who says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all these things shall follow. And then he says, if you want to know yourself, know me. Because when you know me, you know yourself. So that is a type of confidence that cannot be removed by material, by people liking you or not liking you. It's a solid base, and there's approval there, there is love there. Because remember, even your own parents can hate you without being aware. So when you go back to the one who's created you, gives you that identity, and once you are confident in your identity, then you know your purpose. Then it makes it easier to engage with life. So that's when you become of so-called of age, because you are able to be okay by yourself, because there's something bigger in you than what is in the world. So when your energy is right, which is a lot of work, that's where even coaching comes in. Just getting you to be in a space where you are comfortable and okay, and your energy is positive. The amazing thing is you're going to attract positive things. And God has given us the power to attract what we want, what we are. But when you are ready for positivity, you hope that you are positive, because if you are not yet ready and you want positivity, you will not get it. But when you are ready, you can meet the right partner anyway, literally.
And you'll be fine.
There is no location. The location is in your identity and your energy. You are removing energy. So when your energy is okay, it calls that person from wherever they are. They will find you.
Sure, ladies and gentlemen, in studio, hanging out with Dr. B.B. Petla. We're talking navigating relationships in the new year. If you have any questions for her, send through your voice notes on the Y app. Maybe you can give us a call on 011-7720-992. Before we take a break, Doc, I want to ask you one last question. So, say now my energy has done all the things that need to happen. I've attracted this person. They are here. We have an understanding. What are the right questions that I need to ask before, we decide we're committing now?
The right questions depends on what you want. Okay, so if you know you want somebody who is flexible, just having fun, then the question has to be going towards that, to see that, okay, we'll be able to have the fun together. So if you are at the stage where you say, I'm not willing to play games, I'm going straight for the kill, I want to settle down, I'm at a stage where I believe in family, I want family, I want stability. Be clear from the start. This is what I want. And then once you start talking about long-term things where a human being might even come out of that, that's when you should be asking questions like, how did you grow up? Were both parents there? How was the environment? Okay. what is your feeling about money? What is your feeling about religion, belief? Are you cultural? Are you Christian? Are you a bit of both? What is your feeling about raising kids? Do you believe on always being there, doing things together, being present with the kids, or you believe in long distance type of relationship, and then we'll see the kids when you see the kids? So those are key questions that should be asked, because those are some of the main reasons that people break up, that relationships don't work. So you need to be talking about belief, you need to be talking about issues about money, you need to be talking about issues of how somebody sees themselves and what they want out of this. Because if you play soft around that, you're in trouble.
Yeah. She is in studio. Like I said, if you have any questions, send us your voice notes on the Y app right now. As we're speaking navigating relationships in the brand new year, Dr. Bibi Petla joins us in studio. Said to you, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask her, send through a voice note on the Y app and we'll get her to answer it. We have Dawn coming through, if I understand correct. How do you remove comparison in relationships in such a social media driven world?
So I assume it's either they as a couple compare themselves to another couple, or one of them is comparing themselves to their peer.
Probably. I think, one or the other.
Yeah, so it goes back to that thing that you have to get to a place where you're comfortable with yourself and probably limit what you are exposed to, because remember, the brain does not ask questions, it only interprets what you give, the data you give it. So you might have to control exposure. Also be around people that build on what you believe in, because social media has its own,
wishy-washies.
Yeah.
All right, Don, I hope you're happy with that one. We have another question. Did you get that?
I got that. She's saying that she's added a 90-day rule.
Yes.
It's a good idea. Interestingly, with my husband, I said to him, look, I have a child, right? I'm not a virgin. But I'm at a stage where I'm done doing things by the rules of this world. It hasn't worked for me, and it has left me tormented. There's a reason that God wants us to do things in a certain way to preserve us. So I said to him, I'm not willing to be sexually engaged until I know for sure where we're going. I want to get married. If it's not what you want, I understand, but I'm not staying. And I'm not gonna, prove myself, because you cannot prove yourself through sex, which is what is being told everywhere. You think the more styles the red lingerie, those things don't work. It's a lie.
You must show us the catalog.
So it's a bit of a boundary. It's very uncomfortable because it's against mainstream. But you would know that, you'd have had so many sessions and you still heartbroken. So what's the point? Why don't you try other way around and just say, okay, I'm just going to try delaying this, communicate clearly what I want. Because when you tell somebody, if you want a commitment, you tell someone who's not ready, they will run away because they are not ready. But when you don't allow somebody to make that choice and you're thinking, I'm just going to hook them up, look sexy, and then they're going to taste something they've never tasted. And then after you've done all of that, they still leave.
Then you're broken.
And then they go to somebody who's like, no, I don't want this, I want that. Somebody with boundaries, and then they commit to them within a few months.
Sure.
And you've been doing the act and buying lingerie, looking sexy, going through, getting, what we do in the IV trips. You're doing sun tanning, you're doing those, you're looking perfect, but you're so broken.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with looking beautiful. But the main thing is you need to be comfortable with yourself first. Be affirmed.
Let it be a cherry on top.
It's okay, yeah.
I absolutely love that. We have another question coming through. This one is from Sisipo from Kribler Park. Sisipo says, I know this might be a spiritual question, but I need your advice, Dr. Bibi. All the women in my family have been very unlucky when it comes to relationships and marriage. It's something I've been praying about, but I now want to find out, what can I do in my relationship that will help me get better results in the future?
Yeah, that's actually very important, because it is spiritual, it's also genetic. Because what we know now is science is finally acknowledging spirit. Okay, so there's something that is important when you're in a relationship. So part of it is, before you go meet someone else, do your own family tree, at least 2 generations before you. You want to know what happened before in your generations, the good things and the bad things. Because when you're not conscious of what has happened before, it's going to repeat itself automatically. So now what you want to do with the family tree is you want to see the traits that are running in your lineage, and what you like, you hold on to it. What you don't like, you start working on it. So that's where you get coach, or you get a pastor who is responsible, anyone who is in that type of leadership who's responsible with their power, to actually get you to a place where you are strengthened in your own identity, to be confident to do what you need to do. So it's very amazing that she even discovered, she's noticed the pattern, she's already a step ahead. So when you realize that, okay, this is a weakness in this lineage, what can I do now to break it? So in the church they say they're breaking the cycle, the curses.
Break the curses.
Break the curse, yes.
Fire!
It's a real thing, but that fire doesn't work.
I need therapy for fire.
So you need to be whatever that you're comfortable with, whether you're going to see your psychologist, whether you see your family GP who's passionate about mental health, relationships, you do that. Whether you get a coach, a relationship coach, whether you get a role model or a mentor who is living the type of life or relationship that you want, you learn from them. You do research on how relationships work. But before any relationship works, it should always take you back to you.
I love the fact that we speak about spirituality and how science accounts for spirituality now. People often pray for their love of their lives, their life partners. They go to church and they do these things. Is there such a thing as a perfect person? Because when we pray, I know a friend of mine has been going through trouble in her relationships, and she said, you know what, I'm not dating until God hand delivers this man to me and knocks on the door and says, here's your man in a box. Is there such a thing as a perfect partner?
Yeah, that would have been nice, but they don't exist.
It would have been nice.
That would be nice. So the imperfection that we have is what makes us unique. And that's what gives us our strength and adds the spice to the thing. So no one is perfect. No one must claim to be perfect. But you want somebody who is consciously aware of what they want, where they are, where they're going. Somebody who is always seeking to be better to themselves and to others. So that is what you're looking for. So there's no perfect person, and no one is going to really just show up. You have to work on yourself, define what you want. The amazing thing is once you're okay and you know what you want, it will come. But you also just need to know practically, what do I need to do? If you've got issues that from childhood, you have attachment issues, you have anxieties, because most of us have traumas that we have not acknowledged, and we're making them normal. But the body knows that this is not how it was supposed to be, so it keeps rejecting it, right? Until you say, what's wrong? So that's why a lot of people end up seeking spirituality somewhere else, because it's just a sign of seeking. Somebody's feeling pain, discomfort. They don't know how to solve something. Most of the time people don't even know what's wrong with them until they find somebody who can break it down to say, look, you're carrying a gene that has been running through your family lineage and it's been passed on to you. So now if it's not saving you, you're struggling. Obviously you're not coping, you're tormented, you keep attracting the wrong people according to you. Wrong in the sense that they take you to pain, they take you to torment, they take you to frustration. Then they're not right in that context. So then you have to search, what is it that needs to change?
Sure, and I think the inverse is also true then. The same way that you can't expect a perfect person, I think we must also make peace with the fact that we are not perfect people.
That's it, it's that.
And we can't keep, putting up an image of ourselves that we also can't maintain. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All right, we have a voice note coming through from one of our listeners that we'll take in just a bit. Before we take that one, I want to find out are there any specific questions that people often come to you, or maybe what are the most popular questions that people come and ask you as a relationship coach?
How do I get the right partner?
And then how do you answer?
Be the right person. Because perfect is very relative. It's very relative. So you have to define what is this perfect that you're talking about. And whatever that you expect from someone else, you must be that. Because sometimes we can be so lost in ourselves thinking we are special. But we are not, and we expect so much from somebody else, yet we're not working on ourselves. So most likely it's not going to work out, because sometimes we can be lost in self-grandiosity. When you just think, I'm special, I want the best, I'm not willing to settle. But when you look at yourself, what have you done? with your life.
Sure. You know, when you say this, I remember the saying, actually, I don't know if it comes from the Bible or if it's a poem. It goes, love is patient, love is kind, giving and not self-boasting or whatever. I have to ask you now, what's your definition of love?
Exactly what you said, actually.
Oh.
Because remember, as people that are evolving, we tend to want to redefine things, but you can't. Things have already been redefined, so it's a matter of you being aligned with that, because you notice that when you go back to basics, things flow easier because you are not creating your own world. So we have been given the illusion that we are so intelligent, we are so special, we can redefine things. So love is what it is. So love is those things. It's 1 Corinthians 13.
So it is in the Bible.
Yeah.
Yay.
You are holy. You are holy.
I am. I am.
So that says love is those characteristics, right? And then if you read the whole Bible, you realize that God is love, love is God. Those characteristics are actually what love is. So love cannot be anything else, because sometimes like, oh, this is my love language, you know, it sounds sexy.
Yeah.
My love language is this, my love language is this, but then you're still so frustrated, you still don't have the peace.
Yeah.
So until you go back to say, how can I just simplify my life and just be a human being and find what my role is in this life. Your life is just more at ease and at peace.
I'm getting trolled on social media now. They're saying 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. Know your Bible. We've got a voice note from Spooku J. That's the question from Anonymous. Did you get it, Doc?
I got it. So the most important thing in a relationship, obviously intimacy becomes a big part of it. So he's frustrated because his partner is not willing to be intimate with him. So usually for women, the most common cause would usually be that they have some emotional baggage, because we are emotional beings. And when we have emotional baggage, our physicality locks. Okay, I'm just trying to be practical, assuming that there's nothing else. But then in this case, the best thing would be for both the individuals in the relationship to see someone who's going to help them to get through this, because obviously there's a story behind why someone who is in a relationship doesn't want to have sex with their partner, and there's already kids. So people go through a lot, and most of the time actually what happens is part of the traumas that we go through in our childhood tend to pop up in the future. So that is something that must be established. But the main question would be the lady should sit down with someone that she trusts to just find out what is wrong. Sometimes she doesn't even know herself. Sometimes she actually knows why she's not doing it. And because when somebody is an adult, you cannot force them to do anything. The best thing would be to say, can you please get help from somebody who is an independent to help us, because here we are, there's a family, let's try to work on this, because it's also not such a great idea to just quickly break down relationships when there are kids involved, because the impact is lifelong. It's also not to say stay in a relationship that is totally toxic, it's not functional, but there's relativity. So the first step would be to find help from somebody who is professional and who is allowed to give that type of advice. So that is also important, because if you ask the wrong person, you are in for it.
100%.
So ask somebody who is allowed, professional, capable to be able to get to the bottom of this, because there must be a reason. It's not normal.
Right. I hope, Anonymous, you have your answer over there. I want us to quickly talk about red flags, because that's a term that we throw around a lot these days as the youth on social media. That's a red flag. Don't. Yesterday we got a comment that said, don't sew your wedding dress with all the red flags. What do you think about that term? Do you think it's fair to label people's traumas as red flags? If yes, are there red flags that we're supposed to be looking out for?
You know, red flags is, this red flag concept is definitely being used a lot. And the question is really, what is a red flag? So obviously red is for danger.
Of course.
Okay. So depending again what you want from a relationship. So you need to know, okay, if I want A, from getting this A, what is it that I should be looking out for? And what is it that I should be to avoid attracting the A? So red flags would be things like, practically speaking, if you know you want to be committed, then this person always avoids being in a place where there are other people, close people to him. He will always avoid openness. There's a lot of secrets. You don't know the close people in his life. He easily gets emotional. He or she, let me stop saying he or she doesn't allow, the space for discussions, open discussions, negotiations. There's that thing that, okay, I'm a man, I've spoken. Or that thing that as a lady, like, no, I'm a lady, this is what you're doing to me, I don't like it, you're abusing me. Because we tend to just throw those words around without being accountable for our actions. So basically, a red flag is anything that interrupts life. So if you're in a place where you see that, okay, every time I'm with, it's like, with pastors and sangomas, if somebody tells you something and then it triggers fear in you, God is not in it. There is no life in it. So if you're with somebody that always makes you feel anxious, insecure, you never know where you are, you're not confident to ask for things or to make plans, to have discussions, then it's not a safe space. So I think in summary, if I can put it that way, anything that is against life, not a perfect life, but some things are basics. Just have a bit of peace. You can talk. We can do things together. We can ask questions. I feel safe when I'm sitting with my friends. I can say, okay, let me call my person. You answer the phone. So somebody not answering the phone is a red flag. There's always excuses. Midnight, not answering the phone. Like, no, I actually had epilepsy. I mean, can get that. So
not epilepsy. I like the fact that you defined it as things that stop life. So just like a robot, it stops the flow. When you are driving now, you can't continue in your Ferrari. You know what I mean? Absolutely love it. We've got 2 questions before I let you go. These ones are coming from Twitter. At Moonlight Africa says, Dr. Bibi, I can't communicate. I try, but when I do, I get misunderstood. I have real trouble talking about my feelings. Hashtag Nightcap conversations. Hashtag the Nightcap.
So in this case, it's good because he or she knows her gap, her weakness, so to say. So it's a matter of just getting coaching around that through psychologists, because obviously there's a reason she can't talk. She's scared to talk. She puts things in a way that it's acceptable to other people, but she didn't actually say what she wanted to say, or when she really says what she wants to say, she has to tone it down, which is not healthy. So conversations are about being able to talk in a way that your message is portrayed without disrespecting or making the other person feel inadequate or aggrieving them, but your point is put across that it should be addressed. But if it's a situation of you have to always be toning down just for things to keep going, that is not healthy.
That's not healthy at all.
So she must get help coaching around that, or at least find out what is the root cause. You might find that all the way from her childhood. There was a situation like that in the home. Or if it's a she, her own mom went through the same thing, or her aunties, or where she grew up. There's something about something that has already happened that has triggered this.
I absolutely get it. Here's the second last question, then maybe we can squeeze in one voice note. This one is from Dubati. Dubati says, hi Dr. Petla, I'm in a committed relationship with my partner and we recently started having sex. Now I feel vulnerable because for the first time in years I'm in love. Is this normal?
So sometimes when you've been hurt, you get to a place where you say you will never be vulnerable again. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with vulnerability, but there's something wrong being vulnerable to the wrong person. So he just has to clarify if the space must be safe. If it's safe, it's okay. That is healthy, because vulnerability allows for things to flow. Unless if he believes that maybe it's not safe enough, then obviously it's a oopsie.
Sure. I think it's so crazy the things that we have to learn and unlearn as we grow older. And some things are not even our fault, you know what I mean? Sure. Dr. Bibi, where can we find you? Where can we follow you on social media? How do we get your details, where you're based, X, Y, and Z?
The best place is on my website, www.drbbspeaks, so drbbspeaks.co.za. So all my social handles will be found on my website, drbbspeaks.co.za.
All right, maybe let's see if we can get this voice note. No, we can't. All right, Dr. Bibi, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I think I've got a few pearls of wisdom myself, and who knows, maybe Nami soon. I highly doubt.
Invite me, please.
I definitely will, because you would have been the reason why it's happening. Oh my goodness me, thank you so much. One more time, Dr. Bibi Petla joining us for Nightcap Conversation.